Does your weekly workout schedule look kind of like it's Monday, I'm going for a run, it's Tuesday, I'm going for another run, it's Wednesday? You get the idea. It can get really boring and repetitive when you're in the middle of a big training cycle. So I am here today to talk to you about one of the best ways to spice up those midweek workouts, and that's by running intervals. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Sarah Maurer. I am a fitness coach specializing in backpackers and mountaineers, helping them get in the best shape of their life for their big peaks, big backpacking trips. If you know me, I am all about simplicity and flexibility. I feel like our sports are very demanding. We spend a lot of time training. So my goal for today is to really break down intervals. You can get really granular and mathematical with intervals and talk about work-rest ratios and all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm gonna make it super simple and super fun for you today. You're gonna be able to just run out your door, do some intervals after you watch this, and you won't even really need to take a heart rate monitor. I'll talk to you a little bit about how you can just kind of watch your body and know that you're at the right intensity. So a couple benefits of doing intervals. One, they're fun, and that was my main inspiration for choosing this topic. I know a lot of you are training at sea level. You don't really get to necessarily go out into the mountains and have an amazing hike every weekend or even during the week. So it's really important to add some variety to your workouts and keep your workouts just, from getting mentally boring and burned out. So research shows that steady state workouts we get really bored with. What people really enjoy, even though they're harder, are interval workouts where you're mixing it up. Maybe you're pushing it a little harder. Maybe you're taking a rest. It's really good for your mind. It keeps you engaged. It makes the time that you're out there just kind of walking, running, climbing stairs, hiking. It makes it all go by faster. There's some other benefits to doing intervals. There's actually a lot of physiological benefits. Once you kind of have your base, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, your aerobic base where you're able to move at a steady state pretty consistently, whether that's walking, jogging, stair climbing, whatever you do. The next step really is to add intervals. That's going to actually increase your aerobic capacity, and that's going to make you be able to work harder for longer without wearing out, which is really great. It means you're gonna be able to go on your climb, go on your hike, and move a bit faster, maybe carry a heavier pack, tackle steeper slopes, and not feel so tired. And another really great thing about intervals, particularly as we get into the harder intervals, which I'll talk about, is they actually are great for weight loss in the sense that they kind of have an afterburn effect. So you're out there, you're running, you're working really hard, and if you're doing a high intensity interval workout, and I'll talk a little bit about what that looks like, you actually have a few hours, and sometimes it's almost a day if you do it really hard, where your metabolism really cranks up and you burn a lot of calories faster, even after you're done with your workout and you're in your cubicle at work just sitting in front of the computer. Your metabolism is revving much faster, so that's good, right? We like that. A couple precautions before we dive into doing intervals. There's a few things to be aware of. First of all, we're going to talk about two kinds of intervals, aerobic and anaerobic. Aerobic ones are the lower intensity ones. They're generally pretty safe for most people. And, of course, with any exercise program, if you have a respiratory, cardiac, metabolic diseases, definitely check with your doctor. Make sure there's no limitations on your program before you dive in. Hey, Soren. And this is especially going to be important, but for aerobic intervals, most apparently healthy people that are feeling pretty good will be okay. Definitely take more cautions for the anaerobic ones. That is actually going to push you up near your maximal capacity. So if you do have any sort of heart disease, metabolic disease like diabetes, definitely talk to your doctor. And even if you have risk factors, if you're just getting back into fitness, you're not into great shape, you've been sedentary, maybe carrying around a little more weight than you would like, definitely get a medical clearance, a checkup, and just make sure that that's going to be okay for you. Second precaution, definitely you're going to need more rest. Interval workouts are pretty intense, especially anaerobic. So definitely listen to your body. Take some time to rest the next day. You can make your workout a bit lighter, or even, rest altogether if you need to. Third precaution, intervals they're not a shortcut to fitness. They do not replace your we talk about your aerobic base and that most of your training should be kind of lower intensity, longer. That is where you should be spending about 70 to 80% of your time. Even when elite athletes are training for like the Boston Marathon, that is where they spend most of their time, because you need that aerobic base. We are endurance athletes, and you need to be able to go for a long time. That is your number one training goal, more than going fast, more than anything else. You got to be able to just sustain over the long haul. So lots of long, slow distance, and maybe once or twice a week, spice it up with some aerobic workouts, or some interval workouts. They're all aerobic, but spice it up once or twice a week with the intervals. So how do you do intervals without like making yourself crazy and doing math and getting a heart rate monitor? I'll give you some tips right now. So first kind of intervals that you can work on. Hey Scott. So first kind of interval workout you can do, and this is great for anyone with an aerobic base. If you're out there, even if you're just walking right now, like if you can walk for about 30 minutes at a time, go ahead and give this a try. This is called an aerobic interval. So what you do is, let's say your base, your steady state when you're doing your long, slow distance on a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably an effort of maybe 3 or 4. On that scale of 1 to 10, 1 is doing nothing, 10 is working all out as hard as you can. So, when you're doing your long, slow distance, 70 to 80% of your training, you're at a 3 or a 4. And when you're doing your aerobic interval, you're gonna push it up to maybe a 5 or 6. And what that'll look like, you'll be working a little bit harder. If you're trying to talk to a friend while you're doing it, it's gonna get harder to speak. You might have to pant after every couple of words. You might not wanna have a conversation, but you shouldn't feel like you're working really hard at that point either. So that's kind of the intensity of your aerobic interval. And how long should you do it? It's really up to you, like a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. You can do them for a couple of minutes is usually a good place to start. Some games you can kind of play is listen to your music. If you have a really good playlist that you're listening to while you're working out, do your aerobic interval during the chorus, like push it a little harder, give it a little more effort, and then, use the time in between the choruses to recover. So that's kind of fun. You're like pushing hard, climbing hard, running hard, walking faster during the more intense, parts of the song, which feels good. Another thing you can do is, I love this word, it's called Fartlek, which is basically, I forget, it's a German? Fartlek? Something like that. Word for speed play. So what you're gonna do is just kind of make up little challenges for yourself. So let's say you're running around the park and the park has lots of phone poles. You're like, every 2 phone poles, I am gonna do my aerobic interval, or every 3 or 4, or whatever you wanna do, and speed up for that time. Or you can even just see something in the distance and be like, hey, I'm gonna I see someone like pushing a baby carriage. I'm gonna run up to the baby and do my aerobic interval. So you can kind of play little games and set little challenges for yourself, make them longer, make them shorter. And if you're doing Fartlek, just give yourself time in between to kind of get back to your normal pace, your normal heart rate, your kind of 3 to 4 effort level on a scale of 1 to 10, and then you're ready for your next interval. So aerobic intervals, so much fun. Definitely get out and play with those. For those of you who are kind of going to the next level, let's say you are training for a big goal, you really are interested in getting faster, more powerful, and this should also, if you're going to this level, you should also have like a really good training base. So let's say you're training maybe like 5 to 7 hours a week, and able to get pretty pretty steady and, not be too tired around that duration. You're probably ready for some anaerobic intervals. Go ahead and put those in. And what those look like is you're gonna run pretty hard. It's not an all-out effort, but let's say maybe like on the scale of 1 to 10, maybe you're going up to a 7 or 8 now. So you're really breathing hard. Your breathing should accelerate. You should not be able, you can still talk, but maybe it's just a word or two at a time. But that's the intensity level that you're going for. And those intervals are probably going to be pretty short. So maybe like 30 seconds to start with. You're going to sustain that pace and then slow down again. You can kind of work up to maybe 60 seconds. I mean, some people even go above 60, see how it feels. But yeah, just do it and give yourself plenty of time to recover afterwards. Usually people do them on a 1 to 3 ratio. Sorry, I put a ratio in there even though I wasn't going to. But that means, for example, if you run for 30 seconds, doing your anaerobic interval, give yourself about 90 seconds to recover, and then make sure even in that 90 seconds your heart rate really is recovered and kind of back down in that long slow distance range that feels really comfortable, maybe 3 to 4 effort level on the 1 to 10 scale. So that's an anaerobic interval. Once again, that is maximal effort. So you probably at that point if you have any risk factors for cardiovascular disease or any, any chronic health conditions, again, this is, you're gonna wanna check with your doctor before you push your body up to that level. But yeah, in most cases, you will, be able to do it. Sometimes your doctor may want you to, have some modifications, but definitely check if that applies to you. So intervals, I hope that was helpful. Not too much math, pretty simple. If you guys have any questions, you can drop them in the comments now. I'll kind of have a peek and see who's on. Can you guys see my horrifically messy apartment behind me? It's terrible. Looks like Soren and Scott. How are you guys? I'll wave at you. I never know how the comment things work on Facebook. Yeah, so seeing no questions, you can also, I'll leave this video up. It's going to be up for the replay also, so feel free to drop in questions that you think of later. I'll definitely pop on tonight to answer those. And yeah, thank you so much for spending some time with me. I'll see you in the group. Have a good one.